Hi guys, it's Mark Zickery, Mr. Sci-Fi, and I've got a touch of the flu, as I mentioned before, but we've only got 10 days left in our Kickstarter campaign. We're at $42,000, and we have to hit 60, so 10 days. We all have to really come together and take it over the top, and this is the reason why. I've been thinking about this, and I want to share this with you because it's so important to me, and I think to you guys too, which is space. There's a reason I'm doing Space Command. It's not just because it's gosh gee wills and rocket ships and robots and all that stuff. That's the fun stuff. But why has Star Trek lasted? Why has it been important to millions of people around the world? Because it said something important. The message was that we must allow compassion into our hearts. We must act from compassion in the world. We must not let our need for revenge, our need for hatred to overcome us. And it was a very important message then and now. And the reason Star Trek survived and thrived and touched people's hearts and changed people's lives was because it was meaningful. Science fiction has a great gift. It allows us to step outside the specifics of the moment to see the larger, eternal issues. And by taking that perspective, it can change our point of view. Very important. It's the only thing that science fiction does differently from other genres and vitally. And so the reason I'm doing Space Command is because I saw that the current science fiction shows were not inspiring, were not moving people in that way. And I wanted to return to that, to meaning, beyond the excitement. And first you have to entertain an audience, but then you can have that meaningful point. Robert Serling, who was Rod Serling's brother, told me that when on the Twilight Zone, Rod had a lot to say, and there was a sugar pill, and he wanted you to take that sugar pill, the message, but he would wrap it in all these other things so you would get the point of what he was talking about. Absolutely accurate. So the reason this Kickstarter campaign is important is not just because I want to do my science fiction adventure show. No, it's because the message of this episode is vitally important now. The first 2 hours of Space Command, the point was, don't always assume you're the good guy just because it's you. You have to look at what you're doing in the world, and if you realize that you're the bad guy, change what you're doing. It doesn't matter which side you're on. It matters the actions you're taking, okay? So that was the message of that one. That allows Jack to help Dornevan. The new episode, Forgiveness, is about the issue of, can people change? Can we forgive past wrongs? Can we move on and build something of meaning and kindness and compassion and humanity? And so what I'm going to do, so this Kickstarter campaign is to finish that episode. We have only 2 more shooting days, just creature stuff, and then we're already active in post-production. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a scene with you. Now, with Mr. Sci-Fi, I try to not talk politics because I've been asked not to by some of my Mr. Sci-Fi fans, and so I started my Mr. Politics channel. But there is one thing I will say about this scene I'm going to share with you and about our world in general. We've always had war. We've always had cruelty. We've always had atrocity. It's the moment you stop seeing the people on the other side as human beings and you start seeing them as other. And the moment you see them as other, you can do anything to them because you're not seeing them as yourself, okay? Now, that's what's going on now, big time. And the enemy is not the person on the other side. It's violence. Violence is the enemy. We have to find the way away from violence. We have to find a way toward common humanity. Now, this doesn't answer everything. Obviously, people like Vladimir Putin are sociopaths and so forth, and tyrants. We're not going to have that conversation right now. That's a conversation for later in the day. The real question is, how do you stop atrocity from continuing? How do you not be part of it, not be complicit in it? How do you see what's right in front of you rather than what your heart is telling you to do out of anger or out of vengeance? Okay? You know, one atrocity does not validate another. So, going to show you this scene. I'll set it up for you. Jack, there was something terrible done to Jack and his family, and he believes that for on to here, Kasain the Conqueror is responsible. And he tracked him down. He put him in prison. Kasain escaped. He joined a religious community on Mercury. Now Jack is traveling with him to help save 300 religious pilgrims who have been abducted. And at one point they find a combat synthetic, and he's beating everyone up, and Kasain saves Jack. That's the beginning of the scene. So now I'll show you the scene, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
How's your dinner?
Much better without handcuffs.
I want to know why you saved me.
I just acted without thinking.
No, you don't do anything without thinking.
My family was part of the Bangladeshi diaspora. Cheap labor for off-world colonies. Where else could we go? Our country was underwater. You know what that led to?
The Lagrange genocides.
Sometimes you wake up every day crying for justice. But justice and vengeance become indistinguishable. And in time, there are not choices, just actions. When I came to Helios, I wanted to steal a ship, but they had them locked down tight. And then there was all that meditation. For some, silence is sanctuary, but for others, I decided to take the long walk, put on a spacesuit and head for the sun. When I came to, I was back in the Iron City again. The prophet had come for me, you see. I saw those incredible eyes looking down at me. And the prophet said, "Time to forgive."
Yes?
Captain, I've got the combat synthetic responsive.
Right there.
I can be of assistance.
You've done enough.
Captain, our ghosts aren't quiet, are they?
So that's the scene from Space Command Forgiveness. I think it has something to say. I think the whole episode has a great deal to say. Forgiveness is not talked about often. Compassion is not talked about nearly enough. Humanity, common humanity, is not talked about nearly enough. There's only one race, and it's the human race. And we need to see that. We need to live by that. And again, if you're going to send me texts about, well, what about this thing and what about that thing? Yes. I'm not saying simplistic answers don't solve complicated questions, but they can give you a pathway that can bring about change. So it's a start. Anyway, if you like what I'm doing, if you think that science fiction of this kind is meaningful and matters, please go to our campaign. It's listed below. Please pledge some money. It's not about the gewgaws. It's not about the toys. It's not about the bright, shiny objects. It's about living life with meaning and creating work that spreads a message of hope and possibility and humanity. Thank you very much. I'll have my voice back very shortly. Take care, and we'll talk soon.